Hey everyone, Tactics here with my 8th Season 2 commentary video covering the final Mythic Plus dungeon, The Other Side. If you're interested in one of the other dungeons, I have videos just like this one going over them over on my channel, so feel free to check those out. Now this dungeon in particular is a lot like the one I just covered, Theater of Pain, in the sense that there are two very distinct routes for the dungeon depending on what the Tormented Lieutenant rotation is. I may go over the other one in another video, but for this video I'm going to be covering the route where Oros, the ice guy, is outside of the Ardenweald wing. I'll talk you through all the pulls we do, explaining how we handle them, and how you could potentially change them depending on the affixes and what your party composition is. Now with all that said, if you learned something from this video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel, and let's get started here. So right off the bat, slight variation from my advanced route. We're actually testing out this shroud pull here. This route in particular, I think, works a lot better for higher keys, even higher than the ones we're doing. As you'll see, we actually desync our lusts about a minute off from where we would want it because we're going through the dungeon very fast. But this first pull here is a big reason why I don't recommend trying this route unless you're in the 20s and above. We practiced this pull, I think, like 3 or 4 times. We started with 23 the other side keys, I believe, and this is our we went down to a 21. This pull, I think the combination of this being Oros on the platform instead of Arkalith and this being inspiring makes this pull require so much coordination. If both those things weren't true, I think this pull would be a whole lot easier. But as you'll see, we have to do some weird things to get this inspiring mob out. And then also we have to be dodging all of the swirlies and all the stuff on the ground with Oros active. On top of this, I am the only Night Fae in the group. This is another problem. Me as the tank being the only Night Fae having to activate the urn, all of a sudden makes grouping the pack a little bit more difficult. So basically what we do here is the whole party is down the corner. I'm coming through, I convoke to pull Oros to start off the burst a little bit and start him dragging towards the urn so he's in range. We have the mob, if you see, it got blinded and then it got priest knocked out of the pack, pulling the rest of the pack, which then is getting tricks to me in a second here. And I group it as best I can and click the urn, and that is about as good as it's going to be right there. We have funnel damage on Oros, Quaking as well, just spreading, and you see that mob is just CC'd out there, and now you're just watching your feet because there's 2 frontal cones, there's all the swirlies on the ground, but you see we quickly kill those little guys, and we just have Oros left. The mask is over there. As soon as Oros dies, Rogue is going to run over, distract it. We pull in this last cultist, and we move up into the Ardenweald wing from here. This is going to be the variation between this route and the Incinerator route when Arkalith is out here. At that point, you would actually run straight and go to the Mechagon wing. But for this route, because Veruth is actually located behind us in Ardenweald, we go straight into Ardenweald. But yeah, as I mentioned, that pull is super rough because of the combination of Oros and Inspiring. So it's actually going to be way easier when either that's an Arkalith pull, because you just have 2 kicks on Arkalith, the rest of the kicks can be on the pack, and like Shadow Cores or Scribes or whatever. Plus it's way easier to dodge all the stuff on the ground, or without the Inspiring, where you don't have to do that weird stuff at the beginning of the pull, or worried about just not being able to kick everything because Inspiring is in the pack. From here though, just a bunch of big Ardenweald packs. Now I see I had the Bark Binders here because the Bark Binders, they're pretty much no threat to the tank. They really don't do much at all. Just some small autos, not a ton of damage, and really for the non-crane pulls, like you can just pull a ton of stuff into it. So that's really not too bad here. It's a pretty big looking pull, but you see, like, all I really commit to this is like Scale and Barkskin. I don't have Incarn up. This is a non-Incarn big pull in Ardenweald because again, there's no birds, so it's not super scary later on in the pull, and so we're just AoEing this stuff down. Pretty decent sized pull. And what it does is it actually lines up Incarn with Veruth. And so what that means is that I pull a bunch of stuff onto Veruth with Incarn up, and what happens is our DPS just funnel into Veruth. See here, I'm going to grab the 3-pack of the Rune Stags, and I'm going to grab the Padding Blade Beaks right there. And I'm pulling these 6 guys into Veruth. and we just use that as, obviously the Windwalker is going to be cleaving the whole time because he's a Windwalker, but the Warrior and the Rogue are going to be funneling into Veruth, and you can see how quickly Veruth here is actually dying, because the Rogue in particular gets to basically get full combo points and then funnel that into pure single target damage, which is basically why sub-rogues, you see a lot of them being used in the MDI right now, along with Frost Mages who do a similar thing. Both those classes super good at funneling big pulls, killing the priority targets. So that's the reason behind this. And obviously with Incarnation there, I mean, it wasn't really too dangerous even with the healing reduction on me. Next, we just do a little recovery here. We're just killing these hatchlings. Make sure they keep getting CC'd. We don't want this cast to go off. Otherwise, a Matriarch is going to get pulled. And that's just, in general, pretty bad news. So we kill those. And then I believe we go straight into a bunch of birds here. So we pull literally all of the remaining regular birds. We don't pull the one hatchling on the side. We don't pull any Matriarchs. All these big birds. And we just run them in, group them up. And again, this is another like scale, barkskin commit. I will have to kite near the tail end of this pull because of the stacking blade beak debuff. You can see on the side there's 10 stacks already. It's going to go up pretty high. But luckily there is no more inspiring this pack because we killed the padding inspiring blade beak. And so here I just kind of back up. We use Ring of Peace. We have a bunch of knocks. Probably use Typhoon soon, I think. Yep. And basically I'm just kiting for the rest of the pull for the most part because it's not like necrotic or something, right? The stacks aren't going to really fall off in this pack. It's a 30-second duration. I come in for the leg sweep and just to finish everything off. This pull right here, I think we learned a lot. So from here, I think I should have actually stealthed through, run up to this area here where the third pack is that I'm picking up, and actually pulled down. And the problem you're going to see here is the out of range cast that the mobs will do. You see they're doing it right now. The absorbing haze just kills our healer. And so the way you can avoid that, well, two things. Again, having your tank as your only Night Fae activating the urn causes that to happen, really. That's one of the main issues. Otherwise, I would just be staying with them, walking with them, and that absorbing haze wouldn't cast. But because I have to get back and press the urn, it's a bit of a problem. So the way we've actually figured out how to deal with this is two things. One, not being in combat with the mobs. They won't absorbing haze you. So the healer in particular, not being in combat helps. But the problem then is as the tank, I am just getting pummeled opening the urn. So the other thing he can do is actually LOS right there. So when the haze mobs are over here, they won't be able to cast on him, but he's still able to heal me up. So that's how we figured out how to solve for that problem. Otherwise, you do just wind up with, you know, an insta-dead healer. This pull, it's a little slow at the beginning because we want to kill that hatchling without the inspiring mobs. Then though, Incarn is up, so we actually just add all of this. I think I missed a moth or two down there. Yeah, they're not quite leashed together, which is, I guess, nice to know. But basically, yeah, we just Incarn pull all this after the one little hatchling is dead, so he does not pull in the rest of his, or his matriarch friend, rather. Because again, this whole route is aimed around missing every single matriarch, but just mass pulling the rest of Ardenweald. So this, I think it does actually end up getting a bit messy on our next pull here. We do a bit of a mistake, but as you can see, our lust timing, because we lusted that first pull, if this was like a 23, a 24 key, our lust timing would be very, very good. But right now, we're actually ahead a little bit, which is a bit of a problem. And this kind of desyncs our lusts by, again, like a minute for the rest of the dungeon, as I mentioned. So this is the pull that goes a little weird. So always recommend hard CCing that hatchling, because it evades a lot. You have to be on the lily pad to actually hit it without it evading. But the problem is we break it a little bit early here because we go over to kill it now. But I think it gets broken. Yeah, it gets broken there. And you can't CC it unless you're on there as well. So we end up missing the CC and it pulls all of these birds. Not ideal. Definitely not ideal. We do manage to come back from this. You know, we don't wipe from this. The stuff sometimes snaps, sometimes doesn't. It behaves very, very weirdly, which is why you normally don't want to pull all of it. There, it's still evading, but we finally end up getting it. Funneling the matriarch here, and this is just a whole bunch of extra percent that's not actually in the route, by the way. So, best avoiding this. Like I said, CC that one hatchling on the lily pad. When the other stuff is dead, just go over to it, jump on the lily pad, and make sure it gets stunned or stopped or whatever, and kill it there. Don't do what we did. We're able to recover, but percent is just a bit weird now in this dungeon, but that's okay. It also gave us some time to recover Bloodlust, otherwise we would have been even more behind on the Bloodlust timing, because ideally here is you're Bloodlusting as you're running into Dealer, and that's what you want the timing to be. We still have to wait 40 seconds here. We probably would have had to wait over a minute otherwise, but still, that's what the timing you want to be, and then we just go into Dealer here. Not too much to talk about on Dealer, fairly straightforward. We just bounce it to between the melee and the tanks, making sure no one ever gets it twice back to back. And then for these portals in particular, we make sure we spread as much as we can for the one where everyone needs to go up. But also the warrior, he just never goes up. He always times his spell reflect so that we have a little bit of leeway. Outside of that though, fight's fairly straightforward. We lust it, we nuke it down, and at this point we are done the wing. We're fully done Ardenweald, and we can just get out of here. Let's fast forward there. We are outside of Ardenweald, and now we go back towards Hakkar wing. So ideally here, we are going to be pulling everything in under this first pack. We don't care too much about the inspiring mob. I'm just stealthing through real quick here so I can grab these two at the top and just pull all these together all nicely. Incarn. I'm actually kind of on the fence. I think this is probably maybe not the Incarn pull in this route. I actually think maybe you actually do Incarn the next pull, because that does have the Shadow Core guy specifically on fortified weeks, right? This is a tyrannical week, so either way the packs are pretty livable. But we're able to just cleave this one down. We don't really care about the inspiring in this pack, and we just go up, and we have, I believe, Incinerators up there, right? Yeah, we have Arcolith here, so you get Arcolith a little bit late in the dungeon, right? But his buff is nowhere near as impactful, I would say, as Veruth's. It's still a decent damage increase, and I don't recommend skipping them, especially on these higher keys, but it's not something you need to rush right away in this route, especially because it causes the pulls to be a bit off, the lust timings to be a bit off, unless you're doing the one where you have a lot of movement, which I talked about earlier in my advanced routes. That one does have a lot of movement, and I think some less efficient pulls compared to this route. And so I actually believe that this route is better time-wise, but as I said, like that first pull in this route is very, very difficult. It will require a bunch of practice to actually get off the way we did. I know it didn't look that hard, but again, we had literally done that pull like 6 times back to back to back to back before doing it that time. So it takes some practice for sure, and it'll be easier with certain affixes, but it's definitely not something I would recommend you do when you're weekly 15 group. So we have the Raptor just CC'd out there for a little bit because we're a tiny bit worried about the Shadow Cores, but once the pack is mostly dead, we just grab the Raptor back in and cleave it down with the Speaker. Lust timings here again. So our lust timing is weird. So we normally, I don't think, would pull this before Hakkar, depending on our lust timing, right? So we're still on 5 minutes on lust, and we only have a single pull before Hakkar now because of that extra bird pull. We normally would have 2 pulls before Hakkar, because we would do that 3-pack with the Hexer just before the 4-pack at the end of the hallway. I'll show it when we get to it, but we're skipping that because we pulled all those extra birds in Ardenweald, but otherwise you would pull that. So we end up just pulling a Spirit first to try and get Bloodlust, save a little bit more time on Bloodlust, and you'll see here we're like a few seconds later than we want to be on Hakkar for Bloodlust. But this is going to be our Shroud right through. And your pull order here would depend a little bit on the Pat. So you see the Pat is actually in a perfect spot for the pull order. Normally, if we didn't pull those extra birds, we would pull this 4-pack here, kill these Devoted, and then bring the Hexer into this 4-pack. Now, 2 reasons we don't do that. Obviously, the pull earlier in Ardenweald, extra percent, we don't need that 4-pack anymore. And 2, actually, inspiring, I think, makes that a little bit not ideal, because you're going to have 2 Hexers that you want to get kicks on, which may or may not sync up. And so the inspiring mob in there definitely throws a wrench in that plan a little bit. But definitely on non-inspiring weeks, I think that's for sure the play. You have 2 kicks assigned to each hexer for the hex and the heal. And then you have a stop assigned to the priest for the heal. And that will be enough for you to handle everything on that pull. Well, yeah, I checked lust there. We're still very behind on the lust timer. So what you can on Tyrannical, I would say, you can go into this boss with 2 minutes on lust CD. That's just fine on higher Tyrannicals. So you're going to see it a little bit here. We waste a little bit of lust on the 21. But again, this route in particular, I think, is designed more for 23s, 24 keys. It has a much better timeline for the bloodlust and the CDs in those higher keys. But you'll see here, the boss will live a little bit longer. So what we're doing here is we pop 1 minute and 2 minutes on pull for Tyrannical. For Tyrannical, we pop 1 minute and 2 minutes on pull. We are always hard swapping to adds. You saw that Hakkar Sun just blow up. You'll see the tank damage here is very, very high from these piercing barbs. And so pretty much we're rotating. We use barrier here as a tank cooldown. Sun respawns, we hard swap to it. Make sure we get it down. Second sun spawns, it dies to the burst, I believe. Not quite, we finish it. And then we kill Hakkar. And basically the plan for Tyrannical normally would be to blow your CDs after you destroy the 4th shield on a high Tyrannical, the 4th shield. So that's roughly 2 minutes into the fight, which means 2 minutes can pop on pull, 1 minute can pop on pull and off CD, and then 3 minutes can pop on the pack outside, and then can pop when you need them to in the fight. You can see things are getting very, very touch and go. From the tank damage perspective, I've worked through most of my cooldowns at this point, waiting 15 seconds for Incarn, so we end up using Barrier here as a tank CD. And we're pretty close to our lust timing. But like I said, boss is already at 30%, so this is pretty low. On like a 23-24, boss would be a little higher here, right? So this is probably not ideal for this key level, but definitely the way to go for higher key level. So here's the barrier. Lust is just coming off cooldown. We lust. Defensives here. I think we pop a rally to make sure people live. And at this point, we're hard tunneling Hakkar. We don't care about suns anymore. We're not actually focusing them. They're just getting cleaved down here. And all damage is going to Hakkar, and he just dies. You see 20 seconds still on lust. Definitely not the case if you do this on the 23-24. You will get way better value from that bloodlust. But overall, it still works for sure. So how we get out here, like if you can see, we have an invis pot. We have 3 stealth classes, quote unquote, because the priest can fade through this entire area. Actually, I believe the monk used the engineering belt, I think, not an invis pot, so we can actually commit pot to the boss, I believe. But yeah, we have ways to invis out. If you can't, you can always just wait until someone gets out of the exit and then die to the trash there, and you'll respawn outside. Now, the one problem here, Incarn being a little late on the timer, is now I had to pop Incarn like pretty late in Hakkar, sorry, and I don't have it up for this stuff because we don't have the one spirit kind of regen a little bit of my defensive CDs, because normally we would have that spirit that we killed before Hakkar here. So unfortunate. Also had pretty bad padding on this enraged spirit. We couldn't immediately pull this pack in, but that's okay. Was a little sketchy anyways without Incarn. But normally we would want to pull this stuff together. We distract the spirit because we do actually want to kill the spirit before we go inside, because again, we're not going to be padding up to Ardenweald. We've already cleared Ardenweald, right? So I just move up a little bit here, get the spirit. I think we accidentally do a quake here. Yeah, we quake. Super scary, so, but that's okay. Quaking, very, very dangerous. But we just get this spirit down. Again, this is a tyrannical spirit, so not terribly scared of its rage, but on fortified we would 100% be committing defensives to every single rage, and definitely things like touch death, those kind of things, single target CDs, anything we can to kill that mask earlier, because there are some of those 2 masks are 2 of the scarier pulls, right? You commit an entire urn to 1 mask. All right, we got Sagadon here though. I've actually been considering skipping Sagadon. I think it's definitely something you can do in this dungeon. And that positioning too, if you Mind Soothe him, so our comp, we could definitely skip him with a Mind Soothe and just squeeze by, because we have to squeeze by the the dental drill anyways. And with a rogue, with distract, we could line it up, I think. So might experiment with skipping Sagadon, but currently we don't. Just get him down, and actually I think we have another oopsies here. I believe we accidentally pulled the dental drill into this pack and just die. Just definitely not ideal. Yeah, so we distracted in the corner. Be careful here. Yeah, if someone goes a little bit too wide around the thing, when the dental drill is on the right side, you have a lot less space to run through this hallway without aggroing it. So just be aware of that. When it's on the left side, you have a ton of room on the right side of the hallway to run through it. But when it's on the right side, it's hard to squeeze by. So we just die here. I did invest Incarn, unfortunately. So we now have to do this pull without Incarn, but it is only Tyrannical week, so it's not the end of the world. We also have every other CD up. I think we're just waiting for Rogue to get here now. Yep. So do it again this time, but don't pull it. And I think actually we managed to somehow dodge the Inspiring Mob, so they're not actually tied together. So you can do this just so you can actually get stops and interrupts on these clients. And then you can pull in that Inspired Mob later on. Because they do a ton of damage even on Tyrannical. Especially because we're a triple melee comp. So it's nice to get rid of that damage a little bit. And then we just pull that mob in a little later. I knock him out for the last spinning up. And then it's mostly dead here. And so I pull him. And I just get the stuff in the corner and slow it, I believe. Stun it, yeah. And just walk away from that detonation. And we just finish off these headless clients before shrouding through the rest of this wing. So for this shroud, what we end up doing is I go ahead in stealth and deactivate the slimes. And show that for people that haven't seen it. There's a button just on the left here. You can just press it, deactivates all the slimes. You stay in stealth mode, and we just shroud through, and I stampeding. Watch the quaking, of course. And we just run on through, and we end up at the 3 slimes at the end here. Kicks. Not much to talk about here. We just kick, CC, stops, those kind of things. We run on through to the Mana Storm. Let's back up. Sorry, back up. Mana Storms. And here it's just a matter of making sure that Maleficent's health is low enough when you actually kill Millhouse. I don't actually remember if this is one of the times where we stopped damage on Millhouse in the second phase so that he wouldn't die because we didn't quite get Maleficent low enough. But also in this route, you don't actually commit Bloodlust to the Mana Storms. You just kill the Mana Storms as you normally would, and you actually use Lust as a kind of guarantee to one phase Mueh'zala at the end, because again, this is more designed for like the 23, 24 keys, specifically Tyrannical, right? And at that point, it is hard for a lot of specs to kill that Tyrannical Mueh'zala spirit ad and in one go, right, on their own. There is a strat where you send like 2 DPS to one, and then your healer, a DPS, and a tank to the other. I personally like this one a little better. Obviously, it shortens that fight drastically, and that's pretty much one of the biggest time saves in a Bloodlust you can get if you're able to churn Mueh'zala from a 2-phase to a 1-phase. So pretty big value Bloodlust, I think. And this kind of rooting is there to enable you to Bloodlust that pull, right? It gets you 4 lusts in the dungeon. So actually, I haven't seen what Maleficent's health here is. I'm not sure if we call for a full stop like I mentioned, but if Maleficent was like pretty high here, like above 50%, we would probably call for a stop on Millhouse here. I probably looked earlier on, but I guess we'll see. No, looks like we kill Millhouse here. What's she at? Oh, she's at 45? Yeah, she's at 46%. All right, yeah, it's just she's like on the borderline, but I think we had CDs coming up. Yeah, we have Rogue CDs and we have Windwalker CDs coming up here with PI as well. So we decide to just full commit and kill Maleficent here. Probably gets a little close. Yeah, we make it very, very close. It's very, very close, but it's doable. I think, yeah, if Maleficent is above 50% there, on a Tyrannical week anyways, because I think on a fortified week she would never be above 50%, but on Tyrannical week, above 50%, I think you would probably call for like a pause on Millhouse, just like stop at like 12-ish% on him, and just insta-kill him the time he comes down after, but just so you can still have the stuns on Maleficent, because you saw their tank damage is very, very high with the bleeds, and if you don't kill her in time, obviously you all die to the bombs. But then we just come to Mueh'zala, last boss here. You would be able to pull this boss with around a minute on Bloodlust CD, hopefully a little less than a minute, just so it's for sure up in time. But obviously our Bloodlust timings are just a little weird this dungeon, but that's okay. Overall, we just kind of split up the group as you would normally, right? 1 DPS to 3 of the platforms, tank and healer to the 4th platform, and we just commit lust before jumping to the platform, so it's up the entire platform, and we make sure that these ads die. These ads do scale with Tyrannical. They have a ton of health on Tyrannical weeks, and they are hard to bring down, and you would always rather overcommit CDs to these ads and kill them faster than you would like, than undercommit and not be able to kill them. So you'll see here, we go to our platforms, we lusted there. And I actually don't even have Heart of the Wild Convoke, which is a mistake. I should 100% have Heart of the Wild up for this Convoke. I don't have it. Makes this a little bit more scarier, but okay, we... between myself and the priest, we actually have a ton of burst damage. What we normally end up doing is PIing someone who's in a little bit of danger, but as you see, we kill this one first. We pretty much always kill our thing first. I think Night Fate Guardian Druids, they're pretty close to being able to solo. Like, I need good Star Surge RNG on a Heart of the Wild Convoke to be able to solo at this level. But it gets a little bit scary. So we send the priest with me normally, and we PI someone else. We have Lust going too, and that for sure is enough, hopefully, to get this guy, or get the spirits down on like a 24 Tyrannical. But from here, it just kind of repeats the fight. You know, you just do your little dance, and that is pretty much it for this 21 The Other Side walkthrough. Remember guys, if you found this video useful, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more content like it. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, I have walkthroughs just like this one for all 8 Shadowlands dungeons over on my channel, so if that interests you, be sure to check those out. If you have any questions at all regarding this route, maybe changes that you could make to it, or even just Mythic Plus or tanking in general, feel free to leave a comment down below, or you can come stop by my Twitch channel at Tactics, and I'll do my best to answer. That is it for me though. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.